Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining SnapNrack's webinar of the week. Today we have installing solar safely during COVID-19. We're going to give everyone a minute or two to hop on here in case they're joining from another meeting. So give us a minute or two and we'll get the webinar started. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining SnapNrack's webinar of the week. This morning we have installing solar safely during COVID-19. We have Andrew Wickham as our presenter this morning. A couple housekeeping items before we begin. If you have any questions during the webinar, please enter them in the GoToWebinar questions pane. At the end of the webinar, we'll have some time to go over any questions. Andrew will be able to answer them for us. Also, today's webinar is worth NABCEP credits, so please give me by the end of business on Monday to get out participation certificates. Just takes a little time to get those out, so please be patient with me. Again, questions, enter those in the questions pane on the GoToWebinar dashboard there. We'll be able to cover those at the end of the webinar today. So with that, let's get started. Andrew, I'm going to pass the presenter role over to you now.
Thanks, Jill. Thank you for introducing me. Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Wickham. I am the Applications Engineering Manager here at SnapNrack. We are all aware of the global pandemic that is currently affecting many people's lives and health as well as businesses, and solar isn't excluded from that. So recently we put together this training on how to sell and install solar safely during the COVID-19 pandemic. So thank you for joining us today, and we'll get going with the agenda. So first, I'm sure many of you are well aware of the requirements in your own local areas regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. We're going to review some of those and then dive into how these requirements and how the mental state of everyone in our country is affected by what's going on and the considerations that we can take as solar professionals, whether we are a sales professional or an install professional, or even for ourselves as a homeowner or for our customers, to help install solar safely and continue doing business in this climate. Then we're going to go into some tips and tricks and effective methods of selling and installing solar during this pandemic, and how all of these practices can help benefit your business and help make you successful during these times. So the coronavirus, or COVID-19, we are all aware of the federal requirements that have been let down. To lay them out specifically, the CDC and our United States government recommends that you clean your hands often, you avoid close contact with others. This is the big social distancing or physical distancing As some say, staying 6 feet apart from other human beings besides those that are possibly within your family or your household that you must interact with on a daily basis. This also goes for your coworkers that you might have to be hands-on close with. You want to limit that exposure and try to spread apart from them. Covering your mouth and your nose with a face mask when around others. This is when you're going out into public, or for us, going out on our jobs installing solar. And then to clean and disinfect surfaces as well as our own hands and body as often as possible, especially when we've been in an area where there's risk of exposure. So beyond the federal recommendations and CDC guidelines, we also have a lot of state and local jurisdictions that have their own specific guidelines during this time. Many states have enacted stay-at-home orders. This is telling all people to stay home except for going out for essential needs, whether it be to the grocery store or if you have to go to work because your business is essential. There's also no gatherings of more than 10 people in many states. So this means, as many of you have probably seen, there ain't too many concerts on the calendar coming up. There ain't too many fairs, and there ain't too many sporting events. In fact, this thing is so serious that literally every major sporting organization, the NBA, NHL, MLB, have canceled all their events for the time being, except for the NFL decided to have their draft last night, of course, because the NFL is bigger than anyone else and they don't care what people recommend. But if any of you saw it, you know that they still tried to follow these guidelines. On top of that, all non-essential businesses must close. We'll go into that on the upcoming slide, what is essential business. But as I'm sure you've seen if you've gone out recently, lots of local small businesses in your area are probably closed due to the pandemic. There are some counties, such as Los Angeles, California, that have enacted orders that anyone going out into public must wear a mask. And in fact, some of these counties or cities have fines upwards of $1,000 if you are seen out in public not wearing a mask. The reason for the mask isn't so much to protect yourself, but to prevent the spread to other people if you have this virus and don't know it and are asymptomatic. What's deemed essential business varies depending on the state or potentially local county and jurisdiction. So it's not uniform across the board throughout the United States. What businesses are essential? The ones that are uniform across the board are your grocery stores, your convenience stores, hardware stores in order for people to do projects and construction. People need to eat, so obviously they need to go to the store to get food, especially if restaurants are closed. Healthcare operations, so your hospitals. Of course, these would be essential during a pandemic, as if someone is to get sick, we want to be able to take care of them. Gas stations, auto repair shops have to have these open so that people can get around, and those working in essential businesses still have means of doing their jobs if their vehicle breaks down or in order to just fuel their vehicle. Big one here highlighted in yellow is energy and utilities. So your energies, your grid system out here on the West Coast, PG&E, SoCal Edison, those are all necessary. Anyone that is providing energy and electricity to people's homes so they can live their daily lives is essential. And that can also include solar. We'll get into that in a minute. Post offices, shipping businesses. Obviously, with people unable to go out, I know that my wife has a new Amazon box showing up on our doorstep almost every day with stuff to keep me from going out to the grocery store. So we need these shipping businesses to be open in order to get people the things they need during this time. Educational institutions, so your schools. Now this is interesting because they're essential, but pretty much all schools have transitioned to fully online classrooms to prevent the spread of this virus and keep students from being in close quarters with each other, which they would be if they were in a classroom. Agriculture and food processing, that's an obvious one. We need to eat to survive and stay alive, so we count on our farmers and our agriculture to provide us with sustenance to live during this time and all times. Warehousing, storage, and distribution goes along with kind of the shipping businesses. Throughout the nation, there are different businesses that are required to continue operating that need to be able to store products and ship them throughout the country. And then transportation. Even though everyone's supposed to stay at home, we have to keep in mind that there are many people out there that might not have a home or may need to travel for work and don't have their own vehicle. So having open transportation via buses, trains, airplanes is still necessary. The essential businesses that can vary by state. Restaurants and bars are mostly shut down in most states. A lot of them are now allowed to sell food and products via takeout. In fact, you can even get takeout liquor and beer from most businesses that used to not be able to provide this service. Liquor stores, some states allow them to be open and view them as convenience and grocery stores. Some states have said that liquor stores are not convenient and have shut them down. Industrial manufacturing, this is on an economic level. In some states, because of the employment factor and the need to manufacture products for essential services or otherwise, industrial manufacturing is still open. However, there are some states and counties that have shut down certain segments of manufacturing. Construction. This varies by state as well. Many states are considering construction essential, and sometimes that even varies by the type of construction. Whereas some states say that construction for infrastructure or government projects is still allowed, but private construction is closed. Some states say that all construction must stop because it's not essential and we can do without it for now. We've actually seen this affect the solar business in some states where solar is considered construction and therefore has been shut down in certain states. And then gun stores. Of course, Americans love their Second Amendment rights, and depending on the state, guns are viewed as essential, and some states they're viewed as non-essential. So why is solar essential? Most states, solar is viewed as construction. That's what makes it essential, because all construction is considered essential in these states. Therefore, in those, any solar business remains open, continues installing solar, continues being part of the construction sector. Now, if you're in a state where construction is considered not essential and they've shut down construction, one thing you may want to consider is trying to leverage viewing your business as an energy company. The reason for this is our job is not over when we put solar panels on someone's roof. We install their system. We are now their energy provider. They are either, whether they've bought the system outright, maybe they're on a loan or a lease program, they have paid us to provide energy to their home. And if something goes wrong with that system, they may need a solar install business to come out and repair the issue so that they have electricity. So that's definitely an angle you can take in your local area if you've been seeing some resistance as far as solar being deemed construction and construction being deemed non-essential. So if we want to continue operating as a solar install business, what are some considerations that we need to take? First and foremost, we always love to start with the customer. The homeowner is our customer if we are a residential solar install business. We got to think about what they might be going through. There's a lot of stuff in the news. A lot of people are going to be afraid. They're worried about their own health and safety, as well as, they're worried about other people. One of the main reasons people are out there wearing masks is because they're worried that they have this virus, they're asymptomatic, and they don't want to transmit it to someone else. So this isn't just about the homeowner themselves, but they might be scared and afraid for other people. There's also the financial and economic concerns. Lots of people right now have been put out of work. Unemployment rate is at an all-time high. So they might not be wanting to think about doing a solar project right now because of their current personal financial situation. Extra considerations need to be taken for higher risk individuals, elderly people, people with respiratory problems, or existing health conditions. They're going to be even more concerned for their safety, and we need to be concerned for it as well. Most people, not just the people with underlying health concerns, definitely do not want any in-person contact with the salesperson, any person from the install portion of the business, They would like to maintain that physical distance, and if they're going to proceed with getting solar on their roof, do it through virtual meetings as well as not actually having to physically interact with the installers when they're there at their house. Some considerations we need to take for our installers, our people that are out there in the field. These men and women are used to working closely together. We include this shot right here of a crew installing solar, and you can see how close they are. Everyone right now is concerned about their income, and any solar professional I've talked to wants to maintain their job. They still want to get that out there and install, but they do want to be safe. So they're open to wearing the proper protective equipment, adapting their policies and strategies to distance themselves and be safer. And if you're someone that's a manager or employer of solar install professionals, you need to be considering this and trying to do your best to make sure that they're doing their jobs safely. That's what they want. Looking at the sales personnel, they also may be afraid, just like the homeowners. These are people that are used to being in customers' homes, developing a close relationship with them, and wanting to do the best to provide energy for this person using the power of the sun. Sales personnel need to not only feel safe themselves, but it's very important that they make their customers feel safe. So we need to find ways for them to interact without actually having in-person contact and still be successful. Looking back at the entire business, there are lots of employees within our solar install companies that work in the office. They're not the people out in the field getting on the roof. They're not the people out in the field selling solar to customers. And we need to consider these employees as well. There are so many tools out there now, whether it's Google Hangouts, Zoom, Skype, and all of our email capabilities, that we can provide remote working capabilities for most of these office employees. And we highly encourage any business to do so. You can utilize virtual meetings, utilize collaboration software where you can work on documents together from different computers and remote locations. Now, there are many cases where there are certain jobs in the office or warehouse that your people have to be on site in order to be effective. In these cases, especially if you provide remote working capabilities to many of your employees, it should allow you to spread out your office space to keep that social and physical distancing for your employees and make them feel safe. So let's jump into how to sell solar in this environment. So solar is a big investment. The sales process is not immediate. When someone goes, they want solar, they're going to evaluate different options. It's a big consideration. They have to have their credit checked. They have to think about the different options between buying it outright, a loan, or a lease type program. It's very beneficial for salespeople to be in the home face-to-face and develop a personal relationship with the homeowner. Now, in our current state of things, that's very hard to do, and most homeowners aren't going to want it, and most sales professionals aren't going to want to be in that close contact either. This is where we need to start leveraging some of these virtual platforms and technology that we were discussing before. Video platforms. Like I've said, Google Meet, Google Hangouts, Skype, Zoom, Slack. There are many different platforms out there that can help you be successful on video. You could even use a YouTube Live. The big thing is preparing well to give these presentations, discuss with the homeowner, and make it feel as intimate as possible without actually being in their home. So you're going to need to develop new skills, new tools, and a new routine based on the fact that you're now working remote and you're not going to be face-to-face with the customer. So some of the best practices are to really engage. Make sure you actually do a video call. Don't just do a presentation. Ironic, since what we're doing right now is a presentation for all of you. But seeing the customer's face and having them see yours creates a human connection that really can't be oversold. And you want to have that dynamic that you normally have within someone's home virtually. So really encourage when you're having these live meetings with customers to utilize video tools so that you can see each other face to face. And then following up. It's very easy for a homeowner during these times to not want to follow up with a sales professional, and you have to strike that right balance between nagging them and also having an effective follow-up where you're staying engaged, really asking about their needs and what they're going through instead of just trying to sell solar, trying to continue to make that human connection. Along those lines, guaranteed you're going to see a lot more homeowners ignoring your call, a lot more customers. You might even see them not showing up to some scheduled meetings that you have planned. Right now, there is so much going on in people's lives, whether they're losing their jobs or now they're homeschooling their children because their children have to stay home. Everyone, despite the fact that it may seem like everyone's getting less busy and has a bunch of time on their hands because they're stuck at home, a lot of people are actually busier with the new responsibilities they have in their life due to this pandemic. So don't have your feelings hurt if your call gets ignored or a meeting gets dropped. Just stay diligent, continue to follow up, and be flexible. We're seeing that sometimes it's going to take multiple follow-ups. I mean, even when you're selling solar in a non-virtual environment, it takes multiple follow-ups because your customers are going to be looking at their options as always, and you're going to need to follow up with them and really present your value proposition for your business well. This also is going to pertain to documentation. When you might have used to be able to bring over all the documents needed to discuss everything to their home, now it's all going to be virtual. So you got to think about and read your customer as what actually makes the most sense. Are they the type of person that you send all the documents over at once for them to review and they just want it all right away? Or are they the type of person where if you send it all, they are going to get lost and be like, oh, this is too much to look at right now, and you maybe need to do it in a slower process, sending one item at a time and discussing each item individually as far as their utility bill or their contract and things like that. When we're talking about these video calls, as people are getting busy, and because you're not in person, don't be offended if they're shorter than your normal in-person sales call. They might not want to be rude and ignore your call, so they just take it and they're trying to rush off the phone really quick. Be understanding of that and say, hey, if this isn't a good time, when can we schedule a time that might work better for you? This is going to happen a lot in this environment. One big thing to be more effective is to have your own personal checklist so that you're fully prepared when you're having these calls and you're not looking all over for documents or scrambling through your computer files to remember everything about this particular customer. So make sure that your entire workstation, your home office, everything is prepared ahead of time. Make sure that you've looked at your calendar so that you're not in the middle of the meeting and then your spouse comes in needing something because you forgot to get toilet paper from the store. Make sure your entire computer is set up before you've actually logged into these video calls. Get rid of any distractions. Some of you may have just seen that I had a calendar pop up right during this. I forgot to exit my calendar. I remembered to exit every single email and chat window, but forgot about exiting my calendar. And of course, optional meeting popped up while giving this webinar. So be sure to limit those distractions while you're doing these video calls. Make sure all of your equipment's ready to go, whether it's your microphone and headset, your computer, your laptop, make sure it's plugged in. You don't want to be losing power. Make sure your cell phone's charged if that's what you're using. Make sure everything's charged, ready to go, and you don't have some update that's going to roll through halfway through your meeting as well. Another big thing is your webcam. As I said, it's really important to do virtual selling face-to-face. Make sure that the background that you have in the room you're in isn't full of a whole bunch of mess. Certain platforms actually allow you to do a virtual platform, which can be helpful, but also feels a little gimmicky and might not drive that human connection home as much. So having a nice, clean workspace is important. Some other ways that we can leverage digital resources. In the past, you might have walked around the homeowner's property. Now, utilize Street View, utilize Zillow, Google Maps. Take a virtual tour of the house. Sometimes even Zillow still has old links to photos from when the house was sold. You're not going to be out there getting up on the roof. The site inspectors may still be able to, but some owners may be willing to take some photos for you to help you better understand the job that you're potentially undertaking. So have them take photos of the main service panel, have them take photos of the roof, see if they have any documentation of when the roof was installed so that you know the type of roof, possibly if they have the warranty still. It's really important to set expectations with the customer that in this environment, this is a group effort to install solar. It's not just on the sales professional and the install team to do everything. We really need engagement from the homeowner and the customer to make it successful. One thing salespeople like to say is, I'm a chameleon. I'm great at reading people. I can really, change my tone based on working with someone in a sales meeting. Well, all that physical body language, the pitch of their voice, all of that stuff, or maybe their mannerisms that you might see in person, much harder to do online, especially if you don't have a video. But even with a video call, sometimes you're not looking at the video because you're sharing your screen. It's really important to try to pay attention to the voice and pitch of the customer and the pace of things as you're doing these online digital calls. So make sure you're fully prepared. It's going to be very easy for them to lose their concentration. So make sure you have talk tracks and you're getting straight to the point. It's really easy to fill things with a lot of fluff, but during these times, you really need to just get straight down to things. And lastly, sometimes it's going to be easy to get off the call after presenting the information and them say, okay, I'll review it. Always be closing. Be sure to ask for the business. Really easy to skip this when you're talking over the phone, but drive towards making that sale and asking them what are the next steps they need to take or what do they need to see from you to make a decision. Now let's get into how to install solar. Now that we've covered the sales side of things, we've sold the job. Now we need to send our team out to get on the roof, install the panels, and get everything done. So it's really important if you're an installer to provide yourself with tools for safety, as your business owner may not do that for you. Or if you're a manager or business owner, provide tools for your employees so that they can install safely. When they're working on the roof, try to maintain a 6-foot distance. Most installers of their install processes so that they can find a new rhythm and promote having that 6-foot distance between them. Make sure all your installers have masks on. Even if they don't have any symptoms of this virus, they could potentially be transmitting it to other employees. And the worst thing that we could have happen is have one of our crews get entirely wiped out by this virus. Even when you're not on the roof, when you're on the ground, provide the ability for your crew members to clean themselves, washing their hands when they remove their gloves, and set up the workstation outside of the home to continue maintaining that 6-foot physical distance. PPE, proper personal protective equipment. So work gloves, this can help to prevent germs getting into their hands. It also really helps for preventing installers from touching their face, which is really how this virus is transmitted, from people touching the germs and virus and then touching their face and it getting through their nostrils or mouth. Another way to prevent your installers from touching their face is giving them a mask or a face covering. And then lastly, having a hand washing station is really helpful. One thing to consider with the hand washing station is there's many ways to decontaminate. If you have a hand washing station, a big jug of soap and water, that's one of the best ways. The Coronavirus is a lipid and is easily destroyed by soap and water. However, if soap and water is too much of a hassle, have a hand washing station or a hand sanitizer in all company vehicles. So when your crew members take off their gloves, they can sanitize their hands. Cleaning and disinfecting things. Clorox wipes are sold out pretty much everywhere, so that might be hard to get a handle on, but you can always utilize a soapy towel or disinfectant sprays that are still in stock many places. And be sure they're considering all the areas that are being touched, whether it's the tools that they're using on the roof, or maybe if you have shared Fall Pro equipment that multiple crew members are using, as some get on the roof and some get off. Very important to make sure these things are clean in between uses by different individuals. Same goes for your vehicles, making sure door handles and seats and everything, all controls, all of those are wiped down and clean. And then stress with yourself if you are the installer, or with your employees, to really avoid touching their eyes, nose, or mouth with their hands after they've touched other things. Having gloves makes this less likely. Having a mask makes this less likely. You can't contract this disease through your hands, but you can through your nose, mouth, and eyes. This is a general nice diagram of how this virus breaks up, but washing your hands often is one of the keys to preventing the spread of this virus. Soap and water kills it, even better than a Clorox wipe, because it breaks up the lipid profile of the coronavirus and will help destroy the virus and prevent the spread. So not only when you're on the job, take considerations in your daily life to wash your hands when doing everything: preparing food, eating food, caring after a loved one that's sick, using the toilet. If you cut yourself, it's very easy on solar installs to get nicked up by some of the sharp components, since there's so much aluminum up there on the roof. Be sure to wash your hands before you're taking care of any of those wounds. Blowing your nose. Right now, I've got really bad allergies. Every time I blow my nose, I have to wash my hands after, which also brings into the fact that I have a newborn baby, so therefore need to wash my hands after changing her diapers, or after I blow my nose before picking her up or taking care of her. If you have pets, the virus can also transmit through them. So there is just so many different ways that you could potentially touch this virus and then touch your face, or get it, into another loved one's face, that you really want to be sure to be washing your hands after touching or doing anything that could possibly be contaminated. When you're out in the field, protecting yourself by physical distancing. It's really easy to get close together, resume old practices, review documents shoulder to shoulder, give high fives, avoid all of that. If you can have your crew members show up in one vehicle at a time, so one person's maybe taking the truck and then you have another person take a car or their personal vehicle, that's best. If you have to have two team members in a truck, have them wear their masks and face coverings. It's really easy for two people in a small confined space to cough or sneeze, and if they're infected with this virus and don't know that they have it, put the germs out there, and then all of a sudden that other person in the vehicle gets it too, and then they go home, give it to their family. It's really easy for this thing to spread, as we've seen, if you've watched the news at all, how quickly the numbers have gone up. Avoiding close contact with people who are sick, but also people that may be sick and don't know it. The best course of action is to assume everyone has the virus and avoid close contact with anyone. Assume you have it, assume all of your coworkers have it, and no one wants to give it to each other. You can see in this photo here, this shows an example of installers going over the plans. They're all wearing their masks and protective equipment, and they're maintaining distance from each other. Other ways you can help your crews be successful is selecting install systems, racking systems, even your modules, your microinverters, your optimizers, but limit two-person operations. So there's lots of systems out there that require one person holds a part in place while another person secures it and torques it down, thereby probably getting within 6 feet and violating that physical distancing recommendation. A couple of our systems, our RL Universal system actually can be installed entirely by a single installer. Now, that's not going to be the most efficient, but you can have multiple installers on the roof very far apart, installing different portions of the array so that a single person can do each step and they're all spread out, greatly reducing the risk of infection. Our Ultra Rail system utilizes all snap-in components. I mean, that's where SnapNrack gets its name. So instead of having to fumble around where one person's holding a T-bolt, fishing it in, and the other person's securing it with an impact driver, parts snap in, can rest there in place, and then single tool, half-inch socket, secure it all. It's all taken care of. Much better than having to toss tools across the roof because one person, forgot that they needed the impact and they got to secure this. Hey, throw that over. Very easy for people to start transmitting this through sharing of tools. So having a single tool installation, snap-in components, really beneficial on the roof to help your installers spread out and stay safe. Another thing is you don't have to do everything up on the roof. So don't just think of your workspace when installing solar as the rooftop. Think about down by the truck. Think about, the entire property that you're on. Whatever you can do to prep stuff on the ground can help not only save labor, so there's less steps up on the roof, but save that risk of distancing when people are working closer together on a confined space on a roof. So railless systems, RL Universal from us, wire management on the ground is key, not only to make the install most efficient, but also for limiting the interactions from installers. You can have one person installing all of your MLP devices and doing all the wire management, prepping the modules on the ground, completely safe and away from any other installers. Then the next guy can grab those modules, go install them on the roof. Doing wire management as much as possible on the ground or any preparation is really beneficial for keeping your installers separate and keeping them safe out there on the job. Now, let's say you do all of these things, and this is just a general safety guideline for everyone. Let's say you're doing all this, but you end up getting sick. You don't know, is it a cold, is it the flu, is it a fever, or is it COVID-19? So keep in mind, it can take up to 14 days after exposure to start seeing symptoms. Here are some general symptoms to be worried about and immediately isolate at home. Fever, cough, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, chills, shaking, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, loss of taste or smell. That's one that could happen and you don't even notice it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, I've kind of lost my taste buds. If anyone on your team, whether in the office, a sales personnel, or an install crew, starts exhibiting any of these systems, encourage them to stay home and contact their physician. If you're capable of doing it, people are worried about their jobs and vitality. And just as in any environment, lots of people still go to work when they're sick because they don't want to lose their job or they need the income for their family. Do what you can to encourage them. Their job will still be there when they are healthy. You do not want this spreading throughout your office and, worst case, losing the lives of some of your employees. So there's limited testing kits. So don't immediately tell them to go get tested. The first step is to isolate at home and call their physician. The doctor will walk them through the process, identifying the symptoms, having them isolate and stay at home. And depending on the symptoms, the doctor will have them come in and get tested. So just have them follow that process. Don't send them straight to the hospital, send them straight home, have them call their physician. The doctors know way more than any of us do about this virus. Have them walk through it with their doctors and have the doctor and the medical professional advise them of how to proceed. But you definitely don't want them out on the job infecting other employees. And if you're the person out there on the job, you don't want to infect your coworkers or your friends and be responsible for someone getting sick and possibly dying. How to protect yourself and customers. We talked quite a bit about things you can do as an installer, as a salesperson. These are just general things to reiterate. Cleaning your hands often, knowing how it spreads. It spreads by the germs and the virus getting into the eyes, nose, or mouth. So anything you can do to limit having matter get in there. So don't touch your face with unwashed hands. Obviously, avoid close contact with people that are sick. And if there's any sort of surface in your household or on the job that you don't know who the last person to touch it was or what the last thing that happened, clean it, wipe it down, disinfect it. Avoid close contact with your customers and the homeowners. Wear your gloves and face covering at all times to avoid touching your face and potentially transmitting this virus to yourself or someone else. Cover your mouth if you cough or sneeze, and stay home if you can. Obviously, our installers in the field can't stay home all day. They need to be out there installing solar, helping bring clean energy to people's homes and to the world. But if your position within your business allows you to, stay home, work from home, provide homeschooling to your kids, and just avoid getting out into the public at all possible. Limit trips to the grocery store, everything like that. Try to get everything done in one trip. Avoid your exposure by getting out into the public for long extended periods of time. So if you get sick, once again, stay home and call your doctor. Cover yourself. This is a little bit reiterating what was on the last slide, but just be sure to follow all of those standard practices for your own safety. Assume you're sick, assume your customers are sick, and you don't want to infect each other. Now, with all these practices, we've laid out some different things that you can do to continue conducting business during these times. Right now, there's a lot of people that are just going to give up. They're going to say, hey, you know what? We're all staying home. We're not going to install. We're not going to continue doing solar. We're going to completely, potentially destroy our business by not getting out there and working every day. The businesses that adapt are going to be the ones that are successful. This is a challenging time, and change is hard for many people. But if you change your practices and adapt some better business practices, being willing to meet virtually, use digital tools for reviewing and signing documents, making sure to express to your customers, your employees, your crew members, everyone, that safety is the top priority. Stress this to everyone, and that's the key. Your customers want to be safe, your employees want to be safe, you want to be safe. Stress to everyone that safety is number one, and making money is way down the list after the safety of the people in our business. But we're all here installing solar, trying to fight climate change, trying to bring clean energy to people's homes, and we can't stop because of this virus. We need to continue to adapt, utilize these virtual processes, keep our distance, and still install solar successfully during this time, because it's going to keep continuing for a while with these limitations. Improvise, adapt, overcome. One of my favorite quotes. It's not just about selling virtually, adapting to make your homeowners and crew members feel safe, but providing your install crews with the ability to follow CDC guidelines, not only on the roof, but off the roof. We've discussed how the snapping components of Ultra and RL Universal means you never have to have one person hold something while another tightens it. This is really beneficial. Less handoffs of tools, because everything's secured with a 1/2-inch socket, means everyone can have their own impact. Don't try to limit the amount of tools people have on the roof. It's okay to give each of your crew members their own set of tools. They can utilize single tool installation, or even with RL Universal, install the system entirely on their own. So each of your installers can be at a separate part of the array, following social distancing requirements and installing solar without exposing each other to this deadly virus. So divide and conquer. Dividing up the project, instead of having your guys working closely together, work separately, get the job done, and we can still continue installing solar during this period of time. It's not just about keeping your customers safe, it's about keeping your crews safe as well. With that, we'll open it up to questions. You can utilize the questions tab in the dashboard to ask anything you may have. As a reminder, Jill will be sending out the NABCEP credits by end of day on Monday. And be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms that you can see here: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, as we're going to have even more educational content and exciting content with some new product launches coming up for you to follow along with.
Awesome. Thank you for a great presentation there, Andrew. Wonderful content. Again, everyone, if you have questions, please enter them in the questions box. I'm not seeing any right now. I can give you guys all a couple minutes here to enter them in. Similar to what Andrew said, we are on all these awesome social media channels. Please follow us on those. We post a lot of great updates about upcoming webinars, updates on where we're going to be at, upcoming events, of course, given that when we can attend. So please connect with us. Okay, quiet group this Friday morning. On that, I am going to end the webinar. Thank you all for attending today. I will be following up with NABCEP certificates to show your participation so you can get your credits. If you have any questions after this, please follow up with us and we will answer and get back to you. Thank you all and have a wonderful and safe weekend.
Thanks, Jill.